Welcome to the SpartanMag.com VCast. Jim Comparoni, Paul Konyndyk, Breslin Center. Michigan State losing 64-63 to number 3 ranked Purdue. Paul, almost one of those amazingly memorable games for Michigan State. Tyson Walker, great performance. Place was packed. Great atmosphere. If you beat number 3 ranked Purdue just with one more shot at the end, it becomes really a landmark victory for this year, and one that Izzo would not soon forget. Instead, you lose by a point. Izzo trying to bite his tongue about his feelings on officiating and scheduling, still let those feelings come out even though he was trying not to. In the meantime, he wanted to give a lot of compliments to Purdue, and deservedly so. Michigan State played so well, but they don't get a victory, and you wonder now with Malik Hall being out, whether they can replicate this, how much they can sustain this type of effort when they only basically have a 5-man playing group.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that Michigan State showed today is that they can play without Malik Hall. And the thing that we didn't know the first time he was out, it coincided with Jaden Akins being out. So having Jaden Akins on the floor out there with Tyson Walker, with A.J. Hogard, one of the things I wrote about before this thing is Michigan State, to win this game, their guards have to outplay Purdue's guards. And Purdue's got a really good collection of guards. When you look at Fletcher Lawyer, who's guy that I think should probably be the freshman of the year in the Big Ten, or could be. And then you've got Braden Smith, who's a really good guard, and then Ethan Morton, who has been up and down. But I said Michigan State their guards have to outplay Purdue's guards, and they did by a wide margin. Now, Fletcher Lawyer made some really good plays at the end. People can debate with me or you or whomever about whether he should have been in the position to make some of those plays. You know, I think even going back to that, the call where they went to the monitor on the simultaneous touch on the out-of-bounds play. I mean, like, what a cop-out. I mean, you sit there for 3 minutes to talk about that, go one way or the other. But Michigan State's guards were dynamic. They played really good. And, yeah, I think Michigan State can play really well and can be in a lot of games without Malik Hall. The question is, can you finish games? And what has to happen for Michigan State to finish these type of games? And it's the answer is you have to have more than a 5-man playing group. So you have to have a guy like Pierre Brooks coming off the bench, and Pierre has to play functional defense. At this point, I'm not even going to say he's got to play good defense, or he's got to play functional defense. That's a low bar. And he's got to be able to rebound, and he's got to stay engaged. The inbounds play late in the game where he just let his guy just like, I mean, it was down low. You know that he's an option. Pierre's, I don't know what he's looking at, but this guy just goes to just takes a couple steps in and has a layup. That's a losing play. And then there was, like, in the first half when he checked in, he had a late closeout on a Mason Gillis 3. That's something else I wrote about. Purdue's role players historically can beat you because they can hit threes. They can't do those type of things. They did. So if Michigan State wants to go from being close, could have won, maybe should have won in the last 2 games against Illinois and Purdue, they've got to get more from a guy like Pierre Brooks. And we've seen him do it earlier this year. He can't be a guy that just feels good about his defense and feels good about himself when he hits threes, so he's going to play hard on defense. You went 0 for 4 today. He's not giving you anything on the offensive end. I don't care about that. But he's got to be able to bring it, defense and rebounding. In a game like this, in a game like the one against Illinois, he has to bring it in those areas. A game against Rutgers, he has got to bring it as a rebounder. So you look at what Michigan State, they're close. But close isn't going to be good enough, especially when you play teams that are grown man teams that beat the crap out of you, and they see a weakness and they're going to exploit it. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you're on the scouting report as being not engaged, being someone you can score over, and people let it fly.
And Pierre Brooks looked very active going to the offensive glass once or twice, like early on. But this was a great opportunity for him with Malik Hall being out. Not only did they need him, it was his chance to get back into the playing group, and that was that was an area that ended up missing for Michigan State today that could have helped put them over the top. And going forward without Malik Hall for I think it's going to be a few weeks, Paul.
Yeah, if not more than that.
Yeah. And Izzo is very disgruntled because he knows that this team, I don't want to say could have been good, but they could have been good. I don't want to talk about this season in the past tense already. But Michigan State is they're good today for 40 minutes against a very good team. We've seen it in the past that Michigan State has had good guards, and whether that can be sustained night after night after night after the long haul, at some point you get some diminishing returns on that, especially when you hit the road a little bit. They'll be good on a given day against some teams, especially here. But Izzo knows that with a healthy Malik Hall all year, that the mix could have been dynamic, and now they got to be careful they don't fall back into survival mode for a third straight season.
Yeah, and I don't want this to be the pile on Pierre Brooks moment, but I'm going to go back to something you said. Like he had an opportunity. He's had opportunities throughout this year, and I look back at the holiday break. He was playing pretty good coming out of that Portland deal, and he's feeling good about himself. I give him credit at that time for trying on defense, and I thought he was making progress. He comes in the holiday break, and for whatever reason, he missed team meetings or whatever, and he's missed that first half, sat on the bench. I mean, he has not made the most of his opportunities when he's had that opportunities against some pretty mediocre opponents in that holiday break setting. Meanwhile, Jaden Akins is back athletically, and
thank goodness.
And he's a dude that if he might not hit every shot, but he's going to contest like heck on defense, and he played great on defense. AJ Hogard is better on defense. But why the whole Pierre Brooks thing is so important is because you look at a guy like Joey Hauser. He was walking on his knuckles coming out of non-conference play because he was starting to get up to the point where he's playing almost 40 minutes a game. Played 38 minutes in this game. They need Joey Hauser to be the stretch four because Malik Hall's not there. Joey Hauser cannot be sacrificed, to the minutes gods. Because Michigan State will be beyond survival mode. They'll be okay against teams that shack ball screens, but they won't be okay against teams like Rutgers or other teams that get up in your business and play ball screens the way Michigan State does. They need a stretch four, and Joey Hauser cannot be that guy expending so much energy. He expended a ton of energy in this game because, Purdue hits you with everything they've got on the rebounding end. It is brutal. It is physical. And you can't ask Joey Hauser to do this, play 38 minutes, and then saddle up every game and do it again. He's going to get his butt kicked again against Rutgers, but they need functionality from Brooks. If they don't get functionality from Brooks, they better saddle up and get Jason Whitens back in the game or something because they need to buy 5 minutes a game, for Joey Hauser. Otherwise, he's not going to hit those shots from the elbow. He's not going to come off those little curls and hit shots. He's not going to hit trailer threes. He's not going to hit open threes. And you've got to keep your guy healthy. And that's one of the things. Izzo didn't come out and say that explicitly, as I just said, but I could tell it was on his mind keeping Joey Hauser healthy for Big Ten play because it is an absolute must. He might be the most important player on this team right now, and he's got to play 35 minutes or less. Maybe he can do it once or twice. 38 minutes, he had to in this game. You can't ask him to do that on a night-in, night-out basis. Otherwise, Michigan State is going to be on the bubble throughout the year, maybe not even make the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, they'll play him into a slump if they continue to have to play him 38 minutes a game in some of these dogfights. And the way out is Pierre Brooks. That's why he's so important. That's why we're talking about him a lot, because he's that next rung, especially with Malik Hall not being around, that needs to come through. And right now, today he regressed. And Izzo was very upset on the sideline with it, and he didn't mention him by name in the post-game press conference.
He did say something very biting, though.
Yeah, someone asked about someone who played well, and he said you should be asking about people that didn't play well, or some of those words to that effect. Someone who's not giving us enough, words to that effect.
And later on, he talked about players that should have been putting time in the summer working on what they needed to work on, and very close after he was talking about the great effort his team gave, and the players in the summer, in the off season, he's talking about Pierre Brooks, and there's no other way to sugarcoat that. It's too bad too because Tyson Walker, he's played heavy minutes at times, but you can't do what he did today, rise and fire over 7-footers, or late shot clock when you're kind of when you're dragging. We saw Tyson Walker wear down, that Notre Dame game, and I know he had family stuff that was an issue there, but a lot of it was the mental fatigue of playing 38, 39 minutes a game.
Yeah, he shot 23 shots today, and if you do that night in and night out, at some point you're going to have one of the, instead of going 12 for 23, you're going to have one of those 6 for 23 nights. Not that he'll shoot that many on a night like that, but they were relying on him today because Hauser was what he was, and they're playing a good defensive team that was giving up other shots other places, and Walker was spectacular, and it was almost a legendary day for him. Should have been for his sake and for his legacy. This you wish that this would have went down for a victory for him, because Walton against Tyson Walker against Zach Edey was interesting, and it was peculiar. You had a dominant 7'4" against a dominant 5'11", and neither team was able to consistently stop the other, and they were going back and forth. It was really entertaining for really a low-scoring game. You have a couple guys scoring in the 30s in a low-scoring game. It was a crazy basketball game.
The thing that I enjoyed about Tyson Walker is I think I leaned over to you during the game, like in the first half, like maybe 10 minutes way through. I think Michigan State was like trailing by 8 or whatever, somewhere in that range, and I was like, some of these shots that they're not taking are the best shots they're going to get in this game. And I was thinking of Tyson Walker, where he dribble into the high post area, and Edey was coming out on him a little bit, but you got that big wingspan, 7'4", dude, he's huge, biggest guy, one of the biggest guys I've ever seen, and he's turning down some of that stuff, looking for passes out, and some other guys were doing the same thing, and a couple of those ended up being turnovers, and the thing about it, what I thought was cool is that he got to the point where he's like, okay, these are still contested shots, but this is the best look we're going to get against a good defensive team, and it wasn't a bad shot. Like against some teams, some of those shots, maybe you're going to pass it so you can get a better shot for your teammate. He wasn't going to get better shots for a teammate in this game, so he really took it upon himself, and I think A.J. Hoggard, for a while there, he made some really tough shots, and he did some nice stuff. This is one of his better games at finding a balance between, what he can do and as a scorer and what he can do as a distributor. And some of those times he was driving to the lane, he was kicking out to Tyson Walker. Jaden Akins, the same thing. There's a couple times where he drove, and instead of rising for the mid-range, he found Tyson Walker in position to hit a three. And that was real growth from those guards. And I think Michigan State, to a large degree, played the game plan they always play against Purdue. I was wondering how they were going to mix it up or who they're going to sag off of, and they did sag off of Morton. He went 0 for 7 in this game. That was the guy where if you're going to help out with a double team, you're going to do it, but they weren't going to sag off Fletcher Lawyer. They weren't going to sag off Braden Smith. And so Zach Edey did not beat Michigan State today. He played very well, and Michigan State made him work for a lot. He had a great game. But I thought, there was some resistance there. The fact that he went 6 of 17 in the first half, and I thought Mahdi did a good job on him. I thought Carson Cooper, when he was in there, did a good job as well. But, you look at, there's not a whole lot of guys that you have to say, hey, who can get better? You look at the whole thing, and it's got to be Pierre Brooks, or they need to get a little bit out of Jason Whitens. You'd like it to be Pierre Brooks because he does give you the element of being able to shoot. And not that he's made anything lately. He's kind of in a funk, but he can score. You can't really sag off him as a shooter. He can rebound, but just got to give functionality, defense, and just not fog out. I mean, just watch film, do your part.
And Michigan State trying to make it hard on Edey. But that recipe turned out pretty good. Yeah, the number 3 team in the country scores 64 points. Edey, Purdue as a team was 18 out of 42 on 2-pointers, 18 out of 42. He had 13 of them. I mean, you can live with that as long as the other team's not drilling you from 3-point range. But it's not like he was, shooting 75% from the field. Right. Now, Edey had some interesting comments after the game. He felt like he should have scored 40.
Right.
But he didn't. But I can understand that.
One of the things I noticed from him is Mahdi, when he was able to push him out of his space a little bit, both Mahdi and Carson Cooper had strong enough legs to where Edey was like pushing his jump hook, where you're kind of casting a little bit farther. I don't know how to describe it because I'm not a 7-footer. I don't know how you in the parlay of post moves, but I felt like he was trying to throw that out there a little bit longer than normal because he wasn't always in the spot that he likes to be in. There wasn't as much resistance leg-wise from when he was matched up against Mahdi as you see him do against other guys. And there was times in this game where you just saw him just like cave in a guy and go straight to the hoop. Mahdi once or twice, happened to Jackson Kohler a couple times, it happened to Carson Cooper once. I mean, once he gets moving in the right direction and you don't have a strong base underneath you, you're not going to be upright long. But for the most part, I thought Michigan State did a nice job with their legs, playing defense against him, and he's not an easy guy to match up with. The toughest thing for me, I think that one of the things that I thought Michigan State did a better job of after the first 5 or 10 minutes was adjusting to the physicality that Purdue brings on the glass. I thought Michigan State started rebounding really well. Some of those contested rebounds that were jump balls early ended up being like Michigan State wins. That's something that can travel over to this Rutgers game coming up. But I thought Michigan State rebounded well. They didn't have a lot of transition opportunities, which is, again, Purdue's game planning against Michigan State. At the very top of the list is take away transition, make it a half-court game. I thought Michigan State did get a couple looks in transition. After that first 5-minute stretch, they didn't turn the ball over much. I thought that was a good thing. Bottom line for me is Michigan State played well enough to win this game, and it's just a couple bad breaks here or there.
And they needed. This would have set them ahead of just on course in terms of being on course of where they want to go. This would have been such a valuable win all the way around. In a lot of ways, they deserved it. It's interesting the way Edey he made that basket at the end when they went to him with 2 seconds left. And I was telling you that all those delays, I'm like, this helps Edey because it's a big guy. He's played 37 minutes, and all those TV replays and delays. Because late in the first half, that's when he started missing a few more, started front rimming them, and it just goes to figure that a guy his size might not have quite as good a field goal percentage accuracy when you get a little bit tired. And all those delays helped him, I think, on that very last play. Izzo was asked about whether to double team or not. We've been through that, and I think that's the way they've done it against Purdue, and it's worked out pretty well. It's sure made for an entertaining game, and I'm just wondering if Michigan State is encouraged by this, or do they get kind of demoralized, depleted going forward. I think how they do against Rutgers will set that direction, have a big part in setting that direction.
This is a huge. I'm not going to say.
I didn't think they had a chance today. When I heard Hall wasn't playing, I'm like, man, Purdue's going to beat them by 11.
I thought they had a chance if they avoided foul trouble with their bigs and their guards really dominated. Purdue's and I thought it was possible because they're freshmen. They are freshmen, and Purdue's playing really well right now. One thing that I would worry about if I was Matt Painter is, are these guys going to hit a freshman wall? It's something that happens. Now, I don't think they did today. I thought Michigan State just played great defense. And if your guards play great defense, like that trio of Hogard, Walker, and Akins, that is really, 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 really good defense. And we've seen it before. We've seen it at times. But does that fall off as these guys have to play a crap ton of minutes? And, I don't know. You can't look at this as a negative. You're going to, it has to be a positive because you're right there. Like Tom Izzo is one of the best coaches of all time. We all know that. They found ways to overcome serious injuries in the past. I think there's been big-time injuries that I've been like, they can't bounce back from this, like Brandon Dawson's injury, and you think of injuries like that. Gary Harris when he was out for a while, like Delvon Rowe. There's been injuries in the past that have been really kind of debilitating. And you don't think they're going to bounce back, but they find a way. The problem, with this team is there aren't a lot of guys on the bench that you can go to. You can't, because it's a short bench, you can't go to another freshman or something. Like Trey Holloman's is, he's really good. I really like him. He's got a lot of upside as a defender, but there's some things that he can't do. He can't give you a jump shot, but maybe you can use him a little bit on defense, but you can't play him at the 4. You can't play him as an undersized 4 because he's not. And that's going back to Brooks. The only options you have essentially are Brooks and Whitens. And
at the 4?
At the 4, to help out with what Michigan State needs to help out with. Now I don't
think Whitens has ever played the 4.
He probably hasn't, and he can't. But
Carson Cooper played 30 seconds at the 4 today, and that was kind of a mistake. They had him out there with Sissoko, I think, or maybe with Colton and with Sissoko, I guess. And Cooper. If you play Cooper at the 4, he's okay defensively, but on offense it'll throw everything off because then you don't have a perimeter face-up guy that the defense will have to honor in terms of perimeter shooting ability, which you need at the 4.
But I would say this too. I don't know what's. These past 2 games were good games for Michigan State. If I'm Michigan State, I'm really concerned about Rutgers because what I mentioned earlier, they don't play drop coverage on ball screens, and so that all the area that allows the penetration stuff, that Michigan State's been able to get against Illinois, even Purdue with their guards, it's not going to be there. Rutgers has got some really good on-ball defenders as well. They've got great rim protection. this could be an ugly game.
So Michigan State today played their 4th game in 10 days. And that's what Izzo was growling about a little bit. So now you play Rutgers on Thursday. So you'd like to have a day off tomorrow, but then that gives you a one-day prep on Wednesday to get ready to play Rutgers on Thursday, the two best teams in the Big Ten.
Yeah,
Purdue and Rutgers are the two best teams in the Big Ten, rankings-wise. I don't know if it'll turn out that way. But, they'll do some walkthroughs probably tomorrow. I don't know if that's the mandated NCAA day with 0 meetings tomorrow. I'm not sure how they do it. But Izzo's fed up with it. For decades, you play 2 Big Ten games a week. And now, you have 14 teams in the Big Ten. You have the accordion effect, and you end up playing 3 games in 6 days in these things for TV and to get all the games in because they want a 20-game schedule. That's what Izzo's upset about. They've not said it, but I think it's had an impact on Big Ten teams playing poorly in the NCAA tournament the last 2 years. Big Ten has been excellent in the NCAA tournament for years and years. I know they only have the one national title in 22 years, but they've had several teams get to the Final Four and get to the national championship game. But by and large, the Big Ten's been strong in the NCAA tournament until 2 years ago when they changed the scheduling, and these things have a way of wearing you down when you get to March. That's what he's talking about. But like he says, if you lose, you can't complain about it much. I mean, Purdue's got the same problem, and they'll look like Ohio State did when they got in the tournament a couple of years ago and they lost to teams. It's just it's a tough situation for Big Ten teams, and Izzo is really bothered by a lot of things today after the game.
It's one of the reasons why you're seeing the wild swings, I think, in who's winning and who's losing. Like teams that you wouldn't expect. Is Minnesota supposed to beat an Ohio State? Probably not. It's one of the reasons why I think you're going to see 3-game swings. We've seen a lot of that the last couple of years. To me, you look at a 2-game skid what Michigan State is currently on, and a few years ago, and I know Michigan State doesn't have the same kind of talent level that they had. They don't have a bunch of NBA guys on this team. But a 3-game skid seems like kind of commonplace to me when I look at the Big Ten. I mean, there's a lot of good teams, a lot of teams that even end up competing for championships that go on like a 3-game or 2-game bender, and that used to be shocking. Like if you went on a 3-game skid back in the day or even a few years ago, you'd be done. And it seems like it's more and more common.
Illinois had one, Indiana had one,
Right.
Ohio State's had one, and Michigan State's about ready to have one, maybe.
I think I think the game against Rutgers, I really think it has a chance to get ugly. I think Michigan State was, because of the way Illinois plays, because of the way Purdue plays, and because Michigan State was fresh, I think they had a chance to win both of these games. We've seen Rutgers, what a physical Rutgers team does to Michigan State when they're down players, and it's not going to be pretty.
Jackson Kohler, 7 minutes. His playing time has been diminishing because of defensive problems. He's giving good effort. Made a nice fall-away jumper today. I think that was him, right? And he had that one. But, Edey had field goals on 3 straight possessions while he was out there. I thought the defense was okay, but Edey was very confident and fresh at the time. 3 straight buckets. Went to Cooper. Cooper did a better job. Second straight game that Cooper ended up getting, more higher ranking on the pecking order in terms of playing time than Kohler, and deservedly so. But it's interesting how Michigan State is massaging that whole deal. But Kohler's got to come back and give him more than 7 minutes a game. He's working on it. And Trey Holloman's got to come back and give him more than 5 minutes a game. He's played 5 minutes a game. Hogard and Walker need him to come in there and play 10, 12 minutes so that those guys are playing 31 minutes a game instead of 36, because it all will snowball as you get into February. You need Holloman to play more than 5 and play well enough to earn those and have trustworthy minutes. It's easy to say that, but when you get down here 24-11, he can't play Holloman 5 minutes.
The other thing is,
more than 5 minutes.
there's stretches in this game where it's either Tyson Walker or A.J. Hogard, and if those guys aren't on the floor, then things aren't working. A.J. Hogard works best when he's on the floor with Tyson Walker, to be honest with you, because he can use the penetration, and people have to worry about the shooters. Like even if it's Akins and Holloman out there with A.J. Hogard, it's not as damaging because you're going to play the drive, and you're going to let Holloman shoot, and you're going to let Akins shoot until he can. You're going to try to contest it, but you'd rather give him an open jumper than give Walker an open jumper.
Sissoko ends up with 0 points and 8 rebounds. A lot of people are saying, man, State's got problems with the center position. Well, you might think it's not a good center until he has to sit with foul trouble. Then you miss him. And Cooper's done a better job coming in and relieving him. But I think Sissoko offered some resistance.
If you think that Sissoko's a problem, yeah, he's not a guy you're going to throw in a ball to the post and get post scoring, but he's the best post defender they've got on this team, and that's what they need right now. And they're getting into the paint with their guards and scoring. I'd much rather have Sissoko get points on garbage plays where they're not running stuff for him and getting offensive rebounds than than being a Nick Ward and doing hollow points, where you're scoring 18 points and your stats look good, but you're getting used and you can't play ball screens. And Sissoko's not what you want him to be, but he's the best thing that Michigan State has. And they got to play. He plays defense. He plays hard, and he's strong. I mean,
and I think he'll continue to get better too.
I agree with you.
Cooper, we talked about this earlier before we wrap up. Cooper, I just watched him in practice a couple days ago, and even being close to him and interviewing him, that guy's legs have gotten a lot bigger from the summer.
Yeah,
and because he's got big legs. He's always been kind of a thin-trunked guy, like a skinny neck guy. When he was 6'8", 6'9", playing for Amani Bates' team, now he's up to 6'11". But he's been athletic. But his legs are almost like what Paul Davis's legs were as a senior. He's added strength to his legs, and that's what allowed him to bump and play halfway decent against Edey. Edey, they went right at him with Edey, and Edey made 1 or 2 field goals against him, but he missed 3 or 4 or 5 against Cooper. And Cooper has gotten stronger in his lower half without losing that athleticism, and that's what's allowing him to get minutes. He's becoming trustworthy on defense, which is the best way to get on the court.
Yeah, when you've got a guard-heavy team, you need to have guys that can defend in the post, and I think Cooper's getting there. There's no way, I like Jackson Kohler. I think he can do some things, but until he gets stronger, until he gets in better condition, you got to go with your best post defender, especially when you're such a guard-heavy team like Michigan State. If you don't have rim protection, God bless you, because you're gonna give up way too easily. Kohler. He's trying, but he has to learn how to play against stronger guys. Right now, he doesn't have the body to do that. And Cooper, as you said, with the leg strength, and it's noticeable.
There was one play when Kohler and Akins messed up a dribble handoff that resulted in a layup, and Akins was trying to correct Cooper. So Cooper's not there yet. He's going to continue to get better, but it's a bright spot, and they need him because they're court low in some other areas.
Absolutely.
Anything else, Paul? For Paul Konyndyk, my name is Jim Comparoni. I've been watching the VCast from the Breslin Center in East Lansing, Michigan for SpartanMag.com.